We played enough defense. 2026 is all offense.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
What if the most powerful couple in music history is no longer running the industry, but running from it? What if the headline-grabbing GQ sit-down, all that talk about playing offense wasn't a comeback announcement, but a distress signal? And what if we've seen this exact play before, and we're just now too aware to let it land the way they need it to? Because here's the thing, Jay-Z is not talking to his fans, he's talking to the court of public opinion, and the jury has already started deliberating. Disclaimer, I made this video on the fly, so fair warning, there will be rambling and some very spicy opinions. If you can't take your face getting dragged a little or criticized, please click off. Now onto the video. The last time I talked about the Carters was over a year ago. In that video, I predicted that despite my opinions on how quote-unquote strong Beyonce's legacy was, only time would tell us the truth. I also predicted that her husband would be her downfall, and I think I was spot on with that. For years, and I mean years, the Carters have operated on a level that most celebrities couldn't even conceptualize. They didn't just have fans, they had infrastructure, Roc Nation, Parkwood Entertainment, label deals, sports management, a streaming platform, endorsement empires. They weren't a power couple, they were industry unto themselves, and that kind of structural power does something very specific for your public image. It makes you scandal resistant, because when you're embedded in the systems that shape what gets covered and what gets buried and who gets promoted, drama doesn't stick to you. It slides off. Beyonce had notable controversies over the years, real ones, but they never became career ending because the machine was too powerful to let that happen. Keyword being was, can you imagine being part of a power couple where the man who helped build your empire, your business partner, your husband, the co-architect of everything becomes your biggest liability? Because that's the story of their 2024 going into 2026. December 2024, a lawsuit drops accusing Jay-Z alongside Diddy of violating a 13-year-old girl. Now, most people don't believe it, there were too many inconsistencies, but, and this is the part that matters, a large seed of doubt was planted in the general public against Jay-Z's character. Based off his reaction to the lawsuit, and I think he also sued the lawyer who was representing the victim, it was insane. And once that seed in the public's mind started to plant itself, it didn't just disappear. Early 2025, Parkwood Entertainment gets sued over Chloe Bailey allegedly having music credits stolen from a songwriter.
Girl, we are still in Q1. What's about Chloe getting sued? This is a heck of a Friday dump. Chloe, Columbia Records, and Parkwood are being accused of exploiting a songwriter's contribution to her last album, Trouble in Paradise. The person suing them is Melvin Moore. He's a Grammy-nominated songwriter-producer. He's worked with artists in the likes of Usher, French Montana, Chris Brown. According to the lawsuit he filed today, he claims that he did not get proper credit for the 3 songs he contributed to for the album, and that Chloe and the label failed to seek permission of them to use it, and that they, quote, commercially exploit his work.
Tiffany Red is someone who is helping represent this person, or I guess the victim of all this. She comes out to highlight what she calls Beyonce's and Parkwood's bad business practices.
And then when I think about how many songwriters that have written for this woman whose power has been taken, then it made me think about that song, Break My Soul, You Won't Break My Soul. And then I think about how many songwriters' souls have been broken as this woman has taken the publishing, which is the only thing that they have. They're publishing in a big chunk too. Not getting paid, watching an engineer get paid, watching a producer get paid, but you not get paid anything up front. No points, no nothing. The whole industry is changing and evolving, but the business practices are still the same. You're literally watching Beyonce get more famous, rich, bigger off these lyrics that you write, but you don't have anything to show for it. That's breaking somebody's soul. It makes me think about that song, Freedom. Freedom, freedom, I can't move. Freedom, cut me loose. Freedom, freedom, where are you? Because I need freedom too. We all want to be free.
And suddenly, it's become very apparent that the industry is taking jabs at the Carter Empire. Then, Grammys 2025 comes around, Beyonce wins Album of the Year for Cowboy Carter, which, you know, was bound to happen. But the response was messy. Country fans felt that Beyonce was invading their genre for another notch on her belt. It was supposed to be a victory moment. It was supposed to be a momentous occasion, which our fans ate it up. But the backlash was very loud on social media. And here's where it starts to get very specific. Summer of 2025, Desiree Perez, Roc Nation CEO and one of Jay-Z's closest business affiliates, gets federally sued by her own daughter. And the specific nature of these allegations, they fed directly into existing conspiracy theories about Jay-Z's business practices. And they pulled Megan Thee Stallion back into frame because of how the two cases were connected. Let that sink in. His own inner circle is now a liability. January of 2026, Jay-Z and Pusha T gets named in some DOJ files connected to a quote-unquote certain deceased billionaire that ends with a Steen, y'all know what I'm talking about, along with another billionaire, Harvey Weinstein. The implication being that Jay-Z had been affiliated with Weinstein as far back as the 90s, and he might have been a witness or partaking in another violation of a young person. I'm not too sure. So at that point, the public's goodwill is gone. It has drastically reduced, like dwindled.
I took that really hard.
And you could feel the shift happening. No matter what came at Jay-Z after that, he would never win in the court of public opinion. The feeding frenzy had commenced. The Carters have a very specific method for dealing with controversy. When drama hits, you don't hide from it, you capitalize on it. You get into the studio, you make music that frames the drama in your favor, you make the narrative beneficial to you, and while you're at it, you make a very good bag off the attention it brings. Think Lemonade, think 444, and actually a lot of Beyonce albums, you know, they always talk about her scandals at the time, so it's a pattern we've seen before. It's there. It's genuinely a smart strategy because it works on multiple levels. It gives fans something to rally behind. It takes control of how the story gets told, and it generates income from the very chaos that was meant to destabilize you. But here's the problem. In 2026, people are sick of it. Like I said, like this is going on darn near 30 years of the same. The public, especially the online public that shapes cultural discourse, is not as naive as they used to be. We have documented their strategies, and when the playbook becomes visible, it stops working the way it was designed to. So instead of just dropping music, Jay-Z does something a little different, right? He sits down with GQ, he does a lot of interviews. So specifically talking about the GQ interview, that interview, it goes up on March 2026, though it was filmed all the way back in January. And think about who conducted it. Fraser Sharp is the interviewer. He's a GQ senior editor. He's pushing 40, by the way. He looks really good for his age. He has a baby face. I don't know what's going on over there, but you know, people criticize the interviewer for being too young, too inexperienced, and he was throwing Jay-Z nothing but softballs. That's what people were saying, the public. But I want to kind of push back on that a little bit because I don't think Tharp's age or his experience is actually the issue. I think Jay-Z specifically choosing to sit down with someone who he knew was a fan and would give him an easy ride, that's the actual issue.
That was the win.
Not because Tharp was green, but because he was a fan. That's not accidental. That's strategy. And the interview itself, it sparked negative takes across the board. People found Jay-Z out of touch, manipulative, full of himself. But what I found interesting, because if you look at the mechanics of the thing, it's doing a very, like this interview is doing a very specific job. It's doing a few things actually. So let me just narrow some things that really stood out to me. Jay-Z was aligning himself a lot with the little guy throughout this interview. Jay spends portions of this interview positioning himself as the common black man navigating an unfair system, which, okay, there is truth in his experience of structural racism in America, him being a black man, understandable. That's real.
The more reveal me, the more they will kill me, stuff like that. Who, when you say they, like who is that?
Whatever the threat to, however the system is set up to keep things at status quo and keep us in a position of using words like allow.
But here's the thing. Jay-Z has spent his entire career embedding himself into the very systems that the little guy is fighting against. He is a billionaire who owns the machinery. Aligning himself with the people underneath it is a calculated choice, not an authentic one, and people, they peep that. Something else I noticed that Jay-Z was doing throughout this interview was reminding everyone who was really in charge, because even while he's doing the common man angle, there are moments in this interview where he subtly reestablishes his hierarchy because he keeps trying to educate the interviewer, you know, whether it's reflecting on his legacy or anything like that, or trying to teach him lessons on how to become successful. It's like he's not quite doing a profile, like a regular profile interview. It's like he's trying to do a reintroduction.
When you embody that, do you feel like you are kind of setting a mold or leading a charge for like what the successful black man is allowed to do? And like breaking these spaces, breaking these confines?
Yeah. I even want you to take that out of your vocabulary.
Take what?
Allowed. You know what I'm saying?
And to really let people know, like, I am Jay-Z. Also, something else I wanted to touch on, just one last thing, was how he used the family angle. This one is interesting to me because when Jay brings up Beyonce, he talks about wanting to contribute to her success no matter what. And on its face, that's sweet. But I personally believe he's also reminding the audience she and him are still united. He's still a family man. So, why would you attack someone like that? When he brings up Blue Ivy, he praises her tenacity, her grit, her natural music prowess, which again, that's beautiful. But it's also signaling something else as well. Blue Ivy is the heir apparent. She's next up, and nobody's going to come for a father who's publicly building his daughter's legacy.
Are you crazy? That's never going to happen.
Honestly, it's clever. I'll give him that. But the public's reaction tells you everything you need to know about whether that interview landed or not. And if this video lands for you so far, feel free to subscribe if you want more of this, okay? So let's get back into the video. The GQ interview is just one front because what I've noticed noticing, and I don't think this is a coincidence, is that the entire Carter circle has been activated simultaneously. You got Blue Ivy being positioned as a pop star apprentice. She's on stage on the Renaissance tour. I think she was on stage for Cowboy Carter. She was attending multiple events. Even Little Sister has gotten in on the family hustle. You got Jules out here modeling. You got Beyonce launching multiple businesses on top of touring. You got Solange quietly releasing her music. You got Tina Knowles with a memoir, and also out here poisoning people with her gumbo all within a year.
Thawed seafood labeled keep frozen and gumbo that inspectors say was stored in a freezer at an unlicensed off-site location. That's what's in these records that we obtained about the temporary shutdown of Mama Tina's gumbo at the Houston Rodeo. According to the complaint, the customer ate gumbo in the afternoon and later reported vomiting, chills, nausea, and fever. She even said she was throwing up blood. Health department records say inspectors learned the gumbo was cooled, put into buckets, then taken off-site to be frozen before coming back to the rodeo site to thaw for service without any documentation showing safe cooling and storage times. Inspectors also wrote they observed shrimp and crab labeled keep frozen that were no longer frozen. Any of the food that wasn't frozen had to be discarded.
Now, some people might look at this and see a thriving family empire, and maybe that's true. I'm not gonna strip that away, but when every member of the dynasty gets publicly activated within the same window of time, right when the head of the household is facing the worst PR of his career, I have to ask, is this organic? Or is this a multi-front strategy designed to flood the zone? Because here's the dual purpose of it. On one hand, it distracts the public from smaller scandals with bigger cultural moments. Blue Ivy performing is more interesting than a DOJ filing, right? Maybe. Or maybe we can, pay attention to two things at once, but I don't know. On the other hand, with all the legal issues Jay-Z is dealing with, the whole family needs to be generating income.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone needs to be bringing in something. So it's like, sometimes it's like, maybe they have to be all active to bring in some type of money to help Jay-Z out of his legal troubles. Like, this timing is not accidental. These things are almost never accidental and on this level, but, and this is a big but, even with all of them being active, I don't think it's working. Like, I don't know. It's like they're in a rock and a hard place. Like, they have to work to bring in money. They have to be in your faces, but that could be a double-edged sword. Are they covering up scandals by working, or are their scandals more apparent by them being more public? I don't really know. Oh, thank God it's not my family. Here's what I have to keep coming back to when I think about this whole situation. In the past, when the Carters deployed their playbook, it worked because the public still gave them the benefit of the doubt. When Lemonade dropped, the audience was with Beyonce. They were on her side emotionally. The Carter brand still had enough goodwill banked that people were still rooting for her. But the DOJ filing, the Steens connections, that was the moment the balance tipped. Because now it's not just salacious gossip. It's not just shaky accusations with holes in them. It's federal documentation associating Jay-Z with one of the most convicted predators of his era, going back decades. That's a different category of allegation, and the public responded to it differently. His quote-unquote cronies rushed to explain it away. Government conspiracy, agenda against rich black men, bots. But those arguments fall apart quickly when your defense for a DOJ filing becomes more incriminating than the filing itself. You've already lost the narrative.
So Charlemagne did exactly what I knew he was going to do this morning while discussing this whole Jay-Z, Pusha T, Epstein file thing. He deflected and tried to put it on the fact that we fell for the bait, we fell for the smokescreen, to take the eyes off of Trump and his friends and their involvement within the Epstein files. And I'm not doubting that that was the plan by Trump and his friends. I'm not doubting that one bit. Of course it was. That's also why he arrested Don Lemon and those journalists. That's also why he threatened to have Obama arrested. Of course he was trying to distract us. But we don't have to necessarily be distracted. We can focus on all the players involved. And I actually, for one, because I am not just on the black side of social media, but I'm also on the white side of social media, and I see different things, I actually think people did stay focused and call out Trump and his friends as well. I mean, if Black Twitter is all you really focus on, then all you're going to see is what's being talked about on Black Twitter. But there's other parts of Twitter. And believe me, those girls were talking about Cheeto and his associates over the weekend. And not only that, but if the purpose of the Shade Room removing the Jay-Z and Pusha T posts off of their page was to keep the focus on Donald Trump and his associates instead, then why didn't the Shade Room post about Donald Trump and his associates? A lot of stories came out over the weekend about them as well.
No matter what came at Jay-Z after that point, he couldn't win the court in the court of public opinion. And that's the kind of environment he decided to do the GQ interview in. And to say 2026 is all offense, has anyone peeped how tone deaf that framing actually is?
We played enough defense. 2026 is all offense.
You're coming off the worst PR period of your career. The public has shifted. The benefit of the doubt is virtually gone. And your message is, we're going to be on offense. Like, who are you going on offense against? The people who have simply stopped believing you? Like, I don't think Jay-Z's stupid. I think he may have miscalculated how much the public or the audience has changed. And I think there's a version of this where the GQ interview was designed to land as a triumphant reset, and instead it landed like confirmation of everything people already felt. Jay-Z was out of touch, entitled, unaccountable, and we have to contend with both truths here. There is a version of Jay-Z who built something genuinely remarkable and who has been intentionally targeted as part of a larger feeding frenzy in a cultural moment that is hostile to the old class of gatekeepers, period. That version also exists, but there is also a version of this, and I think that's a more compelling one, where a man who has been insulated by this institutional power for so long genuinely cannot fathom that the insulation has worn thin and the playbook that worked for 20 plus years, simply no longer functions in an era when the audience is now incentivized to troll, to rage bait, and to be controversial. There's lots of money to be made to go against the Carters. Their powers to set the record straight has been offset by internet trolls or major online personalities, and right now, with the various legal battles Jay is facing, he can't afford to pay for everyone to be on his side. Here's my actual read of all this. The Carter legacy is not over. Let me just be clear about that. The legacy at the level they've built doesn't just evaporate.
And I do say I will not lose.
Jay-Z is still a billionaire. Beyonce is still one of the most decorated artists in Grammy history. The infrastructure they've built is another story. But this specific moment, this all offense era, feels less like a confident chess move and more like a man who still believes he can manage a narrative that's already slipped out of his hands. The Carter playbook is designed for a world where they control the platforms, the press access, the promotional infrastructure, and the public goodwill. Strip enough of that goodwill away, which is exactly what 2024 and 2025 did, and the playbook doesn't just underperform, it backfires, because offense, quote unquote offense, only works when you have the credibility to carry it. And right now, every offensive move Jay-Z makes is being read through the lens of a public that already made up its mind about him. The GQ interview wasn't an offensive move. It was a man holding a familiar weapon in a fight he's already losing. So is it too late? I genuinely don't know. I mean, technically anything can happen. The DOJ situation is ongoing. The court of public opinion doesn't have a final verdict yet, but Beyonce's cultural capital is weakened so significantly, and it's kind of messed up how she's now using it to still protect her husband instead of growing her own legacy. In this crucial time, she has to be focused on conserving whatever goodwill she can get and to build off that, but that's that's sad. That might be the worst consequence out of all of this, give or take. I don't know. That's just what I think. As always, I want to hear from you. Do you think all this offense strategy is going to work for Jay-Z and Beyonce, or has the public already moved on? Drop your comments and your thoughts below. As always, thank you for watching. Please comment, hype, subscribe, all that good stuff. Goodbye.